Thank you.
You're also lower than the rest.
Richard's not here, so can you sit a little closer?
Yeah. Yeah,
How
that's
are
okay.
you? I'm going to do a little bit of distance.
I appreciate how
Okay,
Cognizant I
great.
am,
Good
but I don't
afternoon,
know
everyone. Welcome to the 2022 budget preview presentation, Vibrant City Economy and Quality of Life for Monday, March 2nd. I want to say welcome, everyone, and we do have a copy of the Open Meetings Act posted at the back of the hearing room. And we would like to welcome several people here today. Please do self-introductions if you could, please.
My name is Brian Seck. I'm the Director of Workforce Development and Partnership for Economic Development.
Great.
and a cheering executive.
We will
Volleyball class.
We will hold the applause to the end, please.
My name is Alyssa Martin. I'm with the Mayor's Office.
Pat Haverty with Partnership for Economic Development.
And I'm Wendy Birdsall with Partnership for Economic Development.
And Christina Oldfather with the Partnership for Economic Development.
Well, welcome everyone. And we are going to kick off with Alisa.
Madam Chair, members of the City Council, as I mentioned, my name is Alyssa, and I'm here to introduce this topic of vibrant city economy and quality of life. At first blush, it might seem counterintuitive to pair the economic growth and development with quality of life, but we think this pairing makes sense for several reasons. For one, when we think of the economic growth and development of Lincoln, it begs a question: what are we seeking to enhance by this growth and development? What is it as a community that we're trying to grow and develop? According to surveys of Lincoln residents, Lincolnites consistently value and express most satisfaction with quality of life here in Lincoln. In other words, Lincolnites want Lincoln's growth and development to enhance the quality of their lives. In this respect, Lincolnites are at the forefront of a growing national trend among young adults and millennials. This key demographic is increasingly seeking a more balanced life, which has led to an unprecedented migration of young people away from the big hubs like New York, LA, and Chicago in favor of places like Columbia, South Carolina, and Clarksville, Tennessee. As these tables illustrate, the three largest metropolitan areas, New York, LA, and Chicago, have become substantial net exporters of 20 to 34-year-olds in recent years, while some of the biggest net importers on a per capita basis have been small to mid-sized metropolitan areas associated with high quality of life in terms of affordability, culture, and opportunity. This aligns with findings that young people want stimulating and creative environments and scenic beauty, safe streets, a place to raise a family, affordability, public schools, and a sense of community. As noted urbanist Richard Florida observed, the amenity gap between superstar cities and other places has closed, while the housing price gap has widened, which is one reason why talent may be shifting away from these established superstars to less expensive places, both large and small, urban and rural. Likewise, business growth is starting to occur more and more in places outside the biggest cities. Last year, for example, Madison, Wisconsin, and Boise, Idaho grew their tech sector twice as quickly as that of New York and LA. And places like Salt Lake City, Austin, and Jacksonville now enjoy among the highest rates of growth in the category of professional, technical, and scientific services. What this tells us is that bigger is not always better. People and businesses employing those people are increasingly seeking good jobs and opportunities, meaning full-time jobs that can support a family, and opportunities for career advancement and economic mobility. Good workforce, meaning a skilled and engaged workforce. Good work-life balance. Good social relationships and a connection to the community. Good housing, meaning affordable quality housing. Good public schools and lifelong learning opportunities. Good health care. Good environment. A safe place where people can play outdoors and have access to green spaces and good scenery. Good infrastructure, and good cultural and recreational opportunities. In short, both Lincolnites and potential Lincolnites are looking for that which makes a place worth calling home, the conditions that support a good and balanced life. Our administration believes that Lincoln has a competitive advantage when it comes to these conditions compared to many other locations. Our goal is for Lincoln to be recognized as a quality of life capital of the country. But we have some work to do to realize this goal. including with respect to affordable housing, which is a topic that Dan Marvin spoke to before, and one that is integral to quality of life and Lincoln's competitiveness with other communities. Equity and inclusion, a topic that Adele Burke spoke to before. This topic, too, is integral to the quality of life of all who call Lincoln home, and it has direct bearing on Lincoln's ability to attract and retain people. Sustainability, a topic that Kim Morrow spoke to before. We must ensure that we have adequate resources to support our continued growth and development and to safeguard Lincoln's quality of life against climate threats. Available workforce. One of the biggest concerns that we're hearing from businesses in Lincoln and businesses wanting to locate to Lincoln is that there is not enough people or workforce here. As this slide illustrates, Lincoln's unemployment rate is currently at around 2.5%, which is much lower than the national average. And while Lincoln's population has steadily increased over the last several years, that rate of increase has recently slowed. In addition, Lincoln is not capturing as many of those migrating millennials as it should be, as evidenced by Lincoln's relatively low net migration rate. It is especially critical that we address the issue of available workforce in light of Lincoln's changing demographics. This will involve a higher proportion of people retiring and exiting the workforce in the coming years. As this graph illustrates, it's projected that the percentage of persons aged 65 plus will jump to 30%. So with a larger share of persons aged 65 plus comes a new set of challenges in terms of maintaining the quality of life of all of Lincoln's residents, including those in the late baby boomer group. Good jobs. We've got some work to do here in terms of connecting Lincolnites to good jobs, that is full-time, well-paying jobs with opportunities for advancement. Lincoln has an unusually high percentage of persons holding multiple part-time jobs and an unusually high percentage of children with both parents in the workforce. What this tells us is that not enough people in Lincoln have access to quality family-sustaining jobs. In addition, we're mindful of the challenges posed by a changing jobs landscape. According to a McKinsey study, up to 1/3 of American workers will need to switch occupations or upgrade their skill sets by 2030 because of automation. We need to be innovative and forward-thinking in how we prepare Lincolnites for these changes. And finally, one of the benefits of homing in on quality of life as a focus for our efforts is that it allows us to take an overarching view of things and to overcome departmental silos, as there are obviously multiple dimensions of quality of life, from safety to parks, from housing to libraries, and so on. But from a budgetary standpoint, there are inevitable challenges that arise when we are trying to balance and harmonize different areas of the budget that impact quality of life. Against this backdrop, the work of our administration and this budget area includes, but is not limited to, working with private partners like LPED, like the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development, to strengthen Lincoln's economy. We recognize that the work of enhancing Lincoln's quality of life is not and should not be done by city government alone. The private and civic sectors play a vital role in advancing the Lincoln Good Life. That is why we are proud to partner with the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce to further Lincoln's growth and development as a community. We have 4 people here today from LPED. We've got Wendy Birdsall, Pat Haverty, Brian Seck, and Christine Oldfather. Pat Haverty will touch on the partnership's efforts to attract people and businesses to Lincoln, particularly those businesses well situated to bring good jobs and to enhance Lincoln's quality of life. Brian Seck will touch on the partnership's effort to train people and connect them to those good jobs, in the hope that they'll ultimately lead to good careers. Christina Oldfather will touch on the partnership's effort to promote startups, entrepreneurship, and the organic growth of small businesses here in Lincoln, each of which contributes significantly to the culture of opportunity and vibrancy of our community. We are committed to promoting workforce development. As a recipient of grant funds under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, the city works with a range of service providers in the workforce development arena in connection with the American Jobs Center. We are developing a strategic plan to increase visibility of the American Jobs Center, foster greater collaboration among workforce development partners, and address the challenges posed by automation, among other things. As these slides illustrate, since 1959, Lincoln has enjoyed steady, sustainable growth. This slide shows that growth from going from green to blue, and this is the area growth of the city from 1959 to now. We're committed to maintaining this pattern of steady, sustainable growth and to streamlining the development process. To that end, our planning department has established a goal of completing 95% of final plat initial reviews within 20 days. And our building and safety department has established a goal of maintaining a rate of initial commercial plan review completion within 10 working days, 96% of the time. And we are working on streamlining the development process in other ways. With respect to redevelopment, we are committed to facilitating strategic redevelopment that enhances Lincoln's quality of life, as exemplified by the redevelopment project plan for the Nebraska Innovation Campus, which will include a new office, building, hotel, and teaching facilities to prepare people for good hospitality and management jobs. We are working on constructing a dashboard that helps measure Lincoln's quality of life in terms of some of the dimensions previously discussed. And we are developing strategies for showcasing Lincoln's quality of life strengths so that more people are drawn here and recognize Lincoln as a quality of life destination. Mindful of Lincoln's changing demographics, we look to design city services to promote high quality of life for seniors, which will benefit everyone. This will include efforts to increase walkability of neighborhoods, promote accessibility of public transit and amenities, reduce food deserts in our community, and foster greater companionship across all ages at our senior centers. Studies have shown that public libraries can serve as community anchors in positively impacting quality of life, as they not only elevate a city's level of educational attainment, but they also support a city's workforce and reinforce a sense of community. Lincoln's libraries serve as important anchors for this community. For example, in light of research demonstrating the profound impact that reading aloud to young children can have on the rest of those children's lives, Lincoln City Libraries, with the help of the Lincoln Community Foundation and several collaborating partners, joined with museums in 2017 to launch a campaign to encourage parents to read 15 minutes to their preschoolers per day. The campaign has resulted in educational programming and events to promote reading aloud in community spaces and has resulted in the proliferation of early reading resources. We are committed to building on the success of this campaign through the city's new advocate for early childhood literacy. The city's libraries also play a vital role in ensuring that our workforce is ready for the jobs of tomorrow by promoting lifelong learning opportunities, as evidenced by the library's tech cafes, startup business series, rooms designated for ELL instruction, and all ages curricula. Moreover, all library locations offer internet access, computers, and staff assistance for those who do not have stable internet access at home, which helps reduce disparities and promote equity of opportunity in our community. Outdoor amenities and recreational opportunities are also critical to quality of life. In fact, a recent study found that those who spent 2 hours in parks and other natural settings were 20% more likely to report high overall satisfaction with their lives than those who spent no time outdoors at all, and 60% more likely to be in good health than their indoor counterparts. And those figures have been adjusted to exclude potentially confounding variables. After LPED presents, Lynn Johnson, the director of the Parks Department, will provide a more in-depth look at what we're doing to enhance Lincoln's outdoor amenities and recreational opportunities. With that, I'll welcome Wendy Birdsall to kick things off.
Thanks, Alyssa. And I want to thank each and every one of you as council members of the City of Lincoln for your investment in the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development. I also thank the past councils, too, that had the foresight to come together and create this partnership, which would have been back in 1995, I think it's some 25 years ago. So we've been doing it for a while. It is the best way to grow your city in these public-private partnerships. It's much more efficient. It was brought together back in 95 because there were there were scattered approaches. The city had its own department, the chamber had its own department. While they worked together, there was no one point of contact. So it was thought that the best way to approach this, and what was being done across the country, was having that single point of contact. And that's what we've become over these past many years. We have a great relationship with the mayor's office. It's important that we have a contact person and a person that we depend on, rely on, and work with at City Hall that is a great partner to our endeavors. And Alyssa has been just that person. We've had many iterations over the years. We've learned from our experiences. We've adjusted as we've moved on, and as you will hear from our members, we are quite different than we were when we started in 1995. So I'm going to turn it over to Pat and let him introduce the team, okay? And then he'll hear from each of the team members.
Yep, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about the different areas that we're involved in here in the community. And I see a lot of you at different chamber meetings and things that we talk about at. So I know you're somewhat familiar with a lot of the things that we do. I did bring Christina Oldfather with me and Brian Seck to give you a little more in-depth information about the really cool things that they're involved in. And I think these things really make a difference, one, towards quality of life, improving that for people, whether that's quality jobs, a better paying job. And on Christina's side, it's more of the entrepreneurship and where there are opportunities there to make a better life for people and for their families. So typical economic development, we still do business recruitment, even though we talk about talent all the time, we talk about entrepreneurship all the time. We're still doing the typical business recruitment, evidenced by the data center project, which we're so close to getting finalized, and hopefully we can make an announcement later this spring about who that company actually is. As Wendy said, it's a great partnership we have, and that's one of the best examples we've had of a partnership of everyone working together, the city, LPED, utilities. There's so many departments, so many meetings that went on, and it just went seamlessly. It was so smooth how everything worked there, and it's a great tribute to the folks here at the city and at the at LES too. We echo Alyssa's concerns about quality jobs, and we know that we're looking to create those quality jobs for people here in the community. That's an important thing as we look at companies, look at industry sectors. Those types of jobs are the ones that we need here in Lincoln. We also are concerned about availability of resources. You know, we had some discussions regarding the data center. Keep coming back to that example, but data center about resources, availability of resources. It's always a challenge, and we understand that from the city side. And we're always looking to work with city departments and making sure that those things fit into long-range plans for the city. On the talent side, as Wendy mentioned, this is especially one thing that looks a whole lot different from back in the 90s. Even 5 years ago, I don't think we had anyone on staff working on workforce development, working on the talent side. Now we have 2 full-time people. We actually have Kayla Meyer, who's with the Young Professionals Group, who's doing a lot of work on the talent side with us as well. And it just fits really hand in glove, a lot of the work she's doing with those young professionals into the work we're doing on the talent side. Alyssa mentioned recruiting people to the community. We've already embarked on that, where we've got the collaboration we're doing with Omaha on the opt-in, where we've created a jobs platform, and we do social media marketing around trying to recruit people into the Omaha and Lincoln market. And it's really unique for us anyway, where we're marketing Omaha and Lincoln really as a super region, and it makes a lot of sense. We just met with the company this morning that came in for a visit, and they were very interested in, one, the labor market of Lincoln and Omaha. They didn't really say what's Lincoln's, what's Lincoln and Omaha. How many people are in commuting and out commuting between those 2 areas? And we've got that information, but that's vitally important to companies, not only existing companies, companies looking to come here, because it is a large labor market, and companies are concerned about where they're going to find their quality people. Brian is here also to talk about helping people improve their lives, and you'll hear him, I'm sure, use the mantra, part-time jobs to full-time careers. And you talk about making a difference in people's lives, make a difference in the community and quality of life for people. That is a huge example of that. Christina runs our innovation and entrepreneurship. She is involved in building this startup ecosystem, maintaining that ecosystem, and honestly, it's a nationally recognized ecosystem. It's not just us, we've got a lot of nonprofits, we've got a lot of companies here in Lincoln that are tremendously involved in building companies, making sure that our ecosystem is thriving, and they participate at a really high level. We've also gone to recruiting these early stage startups, building businesses from the time that they're really small. How can we help do that? Christina's going to touch on some of that here in just a couple minutes. I mentioned Kayla and the Young Professionals Group. As I said, a lot of that work fits really hand in glove with what we're trying to do. There's an excellent group of young leaders. We're trying to strengthen that, get them involved in different things. Those folks are also taking a lot of positions on both local issues and also on the state issues. And we're about, I think, 1,700 members strong, and I think is the last number. So we have a lot of voices that are involved in that, and it's really an important piece of what we're trying to do as well. And the last thing that I'll mention, it really is the promotion of Lincoln, and how do we go about that? We market locally, and you see a lot of that. You don't see a lot of the regional and national work that we're doing. We've got site selectors and companies that we do outreach to, talk about the virtues of being in Lincoln and the great things that are going on here. Through the talent piece, where we're recruiting people, there's a lot of that social media marketing that goes on as well, that is actually marketing Lincoln as a great place to live too. We do a lot of face-to-face interactions anymore. Back in the day, it used to be you'd go to trade shows and stand at your booth, wait for someone to come wandering by. It's really a challenge for us. Companies still do that, but for us, if we go to a trade show, we're working the floor. We've looked at all the attendees. We have targets that we go to. We also do different events with site selectors. Again, a lot of face-to-face interaction anymore. We're not just going to roll the dice and just see if someone will stop by and have a nice conversation with us. So that's really the overview. That's kind of 5 areas that we're involved in and do a tremendous amount of work in. And I think I'll first turn it over to Brian and let him talk about some of the work that he's doing. Oh.
Sure. So I got promoted to the grown-up chair. Now that I get to speak, that's really that's what's happening there. So my name is Brian Seck. I'm the Director of Workforce Development for the partnership, and my big mission, as Pat said, is part-time jobs to full-time careers. For 3 years, I served as the Homeless Outreach Coordinator for Lincoln Public Schools. LPS has about 44,000 students. About 500 of those become homeless every year, and it was my job to help them and their parents find homes and find better jobs. And after doing that job, what I really realized I was doing was helping mom and dad find a better job. 90% of those families became homeless while working, and 90% had never been homeless before. So these are things that we're seeing as a workforce development issue. The number one thing that caused homelessness was $250. So families are working, but they don't have savings. So when we're thinking about how can we build family savings, the answer is to get them into full-time work. So the Prosper Lincoln Initiative started in 2016. I was lucky enough to participate in that. And then Wendy and Pat asked me to come join their team about 1.5 years ago, and I'm sure I've been regretting it ever since. And so what we've been doing at the partnership is a continuation of the Prosper Lincoln work. When we think about the foundation of everything that we're doing with workforce development, it's a group that we call EmployLink, Employ LNK. And what that does is that's a group, it's not a nonprofit, it's not a grant, it's not a program, it's a coalition of agencies who work together willingly to help their clients get to better careers. So we bring together all the different workforce agencies once a month. That's the American Job Center, which is funded by WIOA dollars to the city that Alyssa works with. But that also brings together Lutheran Family Services and Catholic Social Services that work with refugees. It brings together Voc Rehab, works with people with disabilities, the VA, other nonprofits that work with veterans, and a whole bunch of others. So we bring those folks together every month, and what we do is we invite businesses to come talk to that group. So each month, these agencies are making contact with at least 2 businesses every month, places like Bryan Health, Duncan Aviation, and Exhaust, and others, to really connect people to the case manager, connect businesses to the case managers, so the case managers can go back and tell their clients about their careers. Through this coalition, we organize Veterans Career Fairs. That's coming up on April 21st at the VA Clinic Auditorium. We're having a big case manager and job seeker career fair on March 26th. When I was a case manager, when I was homeless outreach, what I realized very quickly was that part of my job description was to help my clients find jobs, but that does not magically mean that I know all the businesses that are hiring. What we realized is there was a gap there. How do we educate our people who help job seekers to know who's hiring? For example, I'm a North Lincoln person, James is my city council person, and General Dynamics at 27th and Superior added to their building. That means they're hiring. So how do we help people who know about General Dynamics maybe, but don't know that they're hiring 60 people? If you're a case manager, you know about General Dynamics. You don't necessarily know they're hiring. So what we do is we bring businesses in twice a month. We organize career fairs. We also have case managers speak with businesses at the career fair. And what we do is each business gets 1 minute and 1 minute only to pitch their jobs to the 65 case managers in the room. So you're going to say, this is why my business is great, this is why you should refer your clients to my business, and here's what we offer. So that it's really trying to get to information sharing. The number one thing that we have in Lincoln is a lack of awareness about careers. It's not lack of jobs. When I worked with families directly and I told them about full-time jobs with benefits, this was just something that they hadn't done. They're all working multiple part-time jobs, but to launch into a full-time career is something that they hadn't done because they hadn't been aware of it. So when we think about how can we help people access stability, I believe it's through the case managers and agencies that they already work with. One thing that we've done really recently is the Lincoln Manufacturing Council. What that is that's a group of 15 companies that came together, including General Dynamics, Kawasaki, Bison, TMCO, and other manufacturers. What we did is we put together a 6-week, once a week, 2-hour-a-week class for people who have never worked in manufacturing but are ready to move from part-time jobs and full-time careers. To participate in this class, it was referrals from case managers. So we didn't go out into the public and put out flyers. We worked through our case managers because our case managers know who's ready to take that step, who's at a place in their life, whether it's sobriety or escaping domestic violence or whatever people are going through, that they're ready to take that step. So the first class we had at Lincoln High, graduated in December. We just ran 2 classes concurrently that ended actually last week at Educare up at 14th and Belmont, 14th and Superior, and Community Action on West O. And we've already had people hired at Kawasaki and Agility Fuel Systems and others. The amazing thing about it is that class includes 19-year-olds to 65-year-olds. And the 60-year-old, one of the people who is about 60, he was an engineer in Iraq, and we got him into an engineering position at Agility Fuel Systems, and he more than doubled his income. So you think about how we can change people's lives and create stability. I believe it's not that we don't need more positions. We have positions. It's a matter of access. Another young man dropped out of LPS, was going through some stuff in his life. He had a case manager at Southeast Community College to get his GED. That case manager reached out to me and referred him to the program. Now he's I think he's at $18 an hour now, and he's finishing his GED. That's an amazing, amazing success story for something that connects people who are ready, willing, and able to the jobs that exist, and the problem was simply awareness. The last thing that I want to tell you about is very exciting and involves the mayor's office, and that's it's called Career Pathways. And what that is that's helping immigrants and refugees with college degrees from their home country get back to their careers. So if you have an audiologist who's from another country, like Mr. Christensen, and he comes here or she comes here, that does not mean you get to be an audiologist in America. You have to get educated here and licensed here. Maybe you have a certain number of practicum hours, whatever the case may be. We did a survey of 500 immigrants and refugees right here in Lincoln this past fall. And what we learned is that just under 30% have some kind of post-secondary degree, and almost none of them work in that area. So the question is, how can we help people get back to their home careers? So what we're doing is we're working with the mayor's office. We got a $10,000 grant from the National Association of Mayors, working with all the different agencies through the New Americans Task Force, which brings together all New Americans, to create maps. It is devilishly complicated and way harder than I thought it would be to do this. Healthcare is complicated. Engineering, law, teaching, accounting, these were our top careers that we identified. So we're creating these maps. It looks like chutes and ladders about here's where you are now, and here's where you are as an American professional, and what are the different things you can do. So let's say James is a lawyer from Afghanistan. He doesn't have to only be a lawyer. He could be at lots of other professions that involve that line of thinking, that line of education. So also thinking about that. So what I hope you're hearing is that my mission is really to maximize talent, wherever that talent is. If that's a 19-year-old at SCC who wants to finish his GED, or that's somebody who's an engineer from another country, or an audiologist from another country, whatever it is.
I'm from Washington State, but it,
Yeah, it's not too foreign, not too
Say
foreign.
another planet.
Yeah, I mean, really, there's more apples there than there are here, I don't know. So the whole idea is to maximize talent. We also have a STEM ecosystem, which is really thinking about how to get Lincoln Public School students connected to STEM careers. And we also have an online portal for students to finish their job shadows. So to graduate from Lincoln Public Schools, you must complete a job shadow. What we did is we created an online portal that's accessible to all students, teachers, counselors, and social workers, so students know about all the opportunities they have to complete job shadows. That's what I have for you. Any, we can do questions now or questions later.
We typically hold the questions
Okay.
until the end.
Can I make one quick statement? Sure. Brian Seck is the real deal. I've known Brian for a couple of years and worked with him as a social worker myself. And when Brian talks, people listen. And so I just want to say that to add to his credibility of him being here. He's very effective in what he does. He knows what he's talking about. He has an excellent reputation, and I'm really thankful that you're here today. So thanks so much.
And one thing I think you heard, and it's really important to us, is Brian is involved with so many different agencies. You know, we don't want to, and Brian doesn't, but we don't want to portray that, hey, we're doing all this. This is a collaborative effort by a lot of community organizations, and that's part of one of the really cool things about doing this, is that we've got so many folks involved. I'd like Christina to talk for a little bit about some of the initiatives she's involved in.
Thanks. So my name is Christina Oldfather. I'm the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I've been with LPED for about 5 years, and I think I don't have the nice succinct tagline, but the way I like to describe how we approach entrepreneurship and innovation is that we're creating the infrastructure for entrepreneurs to be successful, and that kind of falls into two buckets. One is community building and creating those opportunities for collisions and creating the networks. And then the other side of that is really programmatic. And so I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But kind of first off, on the community building side, as Pat mentioned, we're nationally recognized for some of the things that we've got going on here. I think we always look at it as punching above our weight class in comparison to a lot of communities that are a lot larger than us. And there are a lot of partners in that aspect as well. So university very heavily involved in their entrepreneurship programs and their tech transfer office and innovation campus, as well as some of the co-working spaces and all of those players that kind of make up our entrepreneurial ecosystem. The other cool thing about that is that I would say we are probably leaps ahead of a lot of other communities. Because we recognized really early that entrepreneurship was an important component of economic development. I actually am on a national board of entrepreneurial ecosystem builders called the Startup Champions Network, and a lot of communities are just now realizing that they need to bring someone on full-time that's really focused in this area to help grow entrepreneurship. And one of the big reasons they're realizing that's important is because it is a big creator of net new jobs, creator of innovation. As technology changes so fast, we want people that are thinking about that and figuring out how they can harness that, solve problems, and create more quality of life and better opportunities for people as well. So to that end, I guess we have some specific things we do also. So Startup LNK is a digital platform that we've put together where we curate content and things that are happening all over Lincoln around entrepreneurship so that people can have one spot where they really can plug in and figure out where they need to be and who they need to talk to and where they can kind of go meet with like-minded people to bounce ideas and create new things. There are a variety of events. So 1 Million Cups is one that we're really involved with organizing, where every single week an entrepreneur comes in and they tell us their story and they get feedback from the community. And we look at it through a lens of how can we as a community help you as the entrepreneur. So really about creating those connections, networks, and building the opportunity and the quality of life in that way. On the programmatic side, there are a few specific things we do. So entrepreneurs are very scrappy people. They can do a lot with a little. So one of the things we created first was if we gave, we have a founders fund, and if we give a founder up to $1,000 to help them go to a trade show, get access to data, maybe do marketing, but anything that will help them move their business forward, creating an opportunity for them to do that with a little bit of an infusion of some dollars has really helped a lot of companies go a long ways. The bigger piece of that is the Launch LNK program. So we created that in 2019. It's a $25,000 grant. No equity. It's not a loan. We give them a grant to grow their business, and we really look for companies that are working on something scalable, high growth, and really a big opportunity solving a big problem. We also partner with a few companies here in Lincoln to provide some services to go along with that. So HBE provides some accounting services. Klein Williams provides some free legal services. Firespring has some marketing packages that they provide, in addition to EECS with some office, and Suter Swans, yes, with IP. So the cool thing is we've got this $25,000. We've brought in all these private partners that provide those services pro bono for our entrepreneurs to really help them hit the gas pedal and move as fast as they can. We do have a couple of highlights of companies that we've given those grants to. The first one is Basic Block. So they created an app that helps truck drivers get paid faster, solving a really big problem. We gave them a $25,000 grant. They went on to raise $675,000 in a pre-seed round from investors here in Lincoln as well as from Silicon Valley. And they are now employing 8 people and an average salary of about $80,000 per job. So really, really cool success story from one of the grants. The other one I wanted to highlight is Layer. So they won the pitch competition at the Inside Outside Summit this last year. And they're a company that actually spun out of BVH Architecture. And they have a platform that helps architects and building professionals organize and share data really easily, which was a big problem that they came across as a corporation. So it's a really cool example of how corporates and startups can also come together to solve big problems and create additional innovation and opportunity around those. I think let's see. Overall, I guess I think probably just end with the idea that we are doing everything we can to help entrepreneurs grow here in Lincoln. We want to retain them. As Pat mentioned, we have done a little bit of recruitment. And those two things go really well together in order to create people coming in that have new ideas and new networks and new ways of looking things and blending that with the talent that we have here and the companies that are homegrown.
That's just a little bit snapshot of what we do. We didn't have everybody on the team come in. as I said, Luke is busy today. He's got a company in for a visit, and Kaylee, if we could have her go on, just like Brian, she does a ton of work with professionals. So just a little snapshot of what we are doing. We'd be happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Are there any questions? Tammy, go ahead.
So, it's so phenomenal, so thank you for being here and for everything that you do. And I'm having real trouble hearing because of the fan and because I need to see the light. Okay, yeah. And I know you touched on this, on the retention of entrepreneurs and all that's going on, but I know a couple of weeks ago, Councilman Bowers and I were on a panel at UNL with the honor students, and I know I'm asked outside of this all the time how the city can retain young professionals. And I know Kayla, and before that time Jamie, have just done a phenomenal job in Lincoln. But what can the city do to help that effort as well? Because I think we get asked that all the time. I know my peers have dealt with it before my time on the council, but that for me is a real concern, and that's something I talked about during the election a lot, was maintaining those young professionals. What we used to call the brain drain, I don't even know that we call it that anymore, right? Now I'm dating myself, but what can we do to help those efforts, keeping the young, I don't know who's that
Take that, I can
for.
talk a little bit. So, the quality of life issue that Alyssa talked about is huge, right? I mean, and this isn't your old Lincoln anymore, right? I mean, with the advent of the Haymarket and other development that's gone on around the city is, it's dynamically changed over the last 10 years. And so I think we have a better opportunity as we communicate to those, especially those graduating students. One thing that we try to do is we try to reach out and let them know about job opportunities that are out there. The city kind of, through us, is doing some of that work. I think a lot of the work that you have the opportunity to do is through some of those quality life issues, some of the development that's been occurring. We've got public art and those different things. And the trail system, those are all pieces of a quality, dynamic community. And that's really, just off the top of my head, I see as an important role that you, the city, can play there. Did you want the microphone down there?
And I'll address one aspect of this, because I guess I can speak to it personally, but I think there's some opportunities to target so-called boomerangers like myself, who grew up here in Lincoln, but then went elsewhere. I worked in Silicon Valley for a bit, I worked in Boston, went to school elsewhere, but I ultimately came back to Lincoln because of quality of life, because I wanted to be able to raise a family here and experience the amenities in an affordable place. And so I think that there's more efforts we could do to target some of those people. It's okay to leave Lincoln for a while, but come back.
You jump and interrupt. And each of us have mentioned this, and I think it was in Richard Florida's book, people are, or Rebecca Ryan maybe, people are working, or living first, working second. So it's vitally important that we shore up the things that you can do after work. The arena was a huge addition to this community. We couldn't have done it without the city, right? So those things, I think, are vitally important, that we create opportunities outside work, which that much of that is in your control, and it's actually a partnership. That we've got to maintain this strength in this private-public partnership in creating those opportunities.
Roy?
So some of the reading and research I've done shows that communities who are similar to ours in terms of a capital city, seat of government, and a city that has a major university in it tend to have some of the same issues we do, especially regarding underemployment. And I know you've talked about this kind of thing. Are there any examples we can point to at this time of other cities who have tackled this successfully to solve the underemployment issue?
Well, I think Brian has been working a great deal on it with his part-time jobs to full-time careers.
right.
I mean, that has been a new focus of ours in the last 18 months, 2 years.
I guess the question is, are there other cities that we can look to and say, yeah, they did it right, or are we leading the pack?
I would say we're leading the pack. I mean, I go to Chamber 100 meetings twice a year, and people come to me and ask me some of the things that we've been working on. I think this is very unique, this venture that we've gone on, and I don't know of another community like us that I would reach out to and ask, how have you solved this at this point in time? I think we've made great inroads and strides. Brian has great success stories. I would say we're leading the pack.
Underemployment is a challenge, and it's a challenge here in Lincoln. We've seen underemployment studies. We haven't done one here in Lincoln for quite some time, but we know it's out there anecdotally. And on our behalf, or on our side, it's about creating opportunities and making sure that we're working with companies, either new or existing, and creating those quality opportunities. I know of a company that talked to me about how in their call center, they've got a number of people with master's degrees, right? And so how do we create those opportunities where those people can move up and take those different positions? So really, that's back on us to keep creating those opportunities. I don't know if you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, that's a good question. I can't speak exactly to the underemployment piece. I would say that we've modeled some of our work on skilled immigration, the Career Pathways Project around what's happening in Louisville, Kentucky, and Des Moines. Have been a few years ahead of us on how to successfully get folks with degrees back into their home careers. So I would definitely say we've used those. In terms of underemployment writ large, I couldn't speak to any other models. I would say that our EmployLink model, and I can send you guys this is our little, EmployLink is our coalition of agencies. This coalition and the model that we use has been copied across the state. So now there's Employ Kearney, Beatrice, Norfolk, and a couple others who've basically taken our model and are now using it.
I had a question, just a couple. Like my colleague, Mr. Christensen, I think underemployment is a pretty serious issue, but one of the things that I found about Lincoln is years ago, when I first moved here, I was on the Girl Scout Board of Directors, and I'm not sure why we were thinking about employment when we were, this was the early 90s, but I think we were thinking about how to attract girls into Girl Scouting and the problem with working parents. And Nebraska and Lincoln have had this issue with both parents working and working multiple jobs for decades. Nebraska was the highest, had the highest rate of that in the country 25, 30 years ago. So it's interesting that this is just a perpetuating problem with both parents working out of the home, and it doesn't seem to have so much with our cost of living as it does with just underemployment, that everyone has to work some to make it work. And but I was curious, Pat, when you talked about the challenge about the availability of resources, could you be more specific?
So that could be water that might be needed for a project. That's the one that recently came up. That is a very, that's a huge issue, right? And also we run into issues with streets and planned expansion of streets. And so it's mostly natural resources, but water is probably at the very top of that list.
That is a challenge.
Whiskey for drinking, water for fighting.
Sandra, just real quick, in terms of underemployment,
Yeah.
a big one that we see is scheduling. So I'm trying to get folks into manufacturing right now, but if I've got a mom that I'm working with who has to get her kids to school by 8 and has to pick them up by 3, that can be a real challenge for a lot of full-time positions where shifts aren't as flexible. So what we're trying to think about is, what can we do to make that happen? So I think one reason that people work multiple part-time jobs is to fit around their children's schedules. So what can we do to help facilitate both?
Yeah. Quality after-school care. Right. Learning centers, love them.
Any other questions? Terrific. Well, thank you very much for a great presentation.
Yeah, I want to echo that. Thank you back to you, all of you as well, for your time today, but also for your investment and the partnership. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And happy sesquicentennial.
Have you tried the 150?
Yes. Whoops, I shouldn't say that so loud.
Okay.
Great.
You shouldn't be ashamed.
I know, it's very good. But we don't write that. Yeah, there you go.
That'll be other resources to find.
That's right. Welcome, Lynn Johnson.
Thank you, thank you. My name's Lynn Johnson. I'm the Director of the Parks and Recreation Department here in Lincoln, and this is a fun topic. This is talking about that interface between Parks and Recreation and economic development, and I think there is a significant interface there. Oops. I think I just,
You started another power. Yeah.
I gotta get back to where I was.
Here she comes to save the day.
Thank you. Nope,
Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse. Thank you.
there we go.
That's hilarious.
This one, great, thank you.
Sherman.
Well, the intent today is to talk about just what they were talking about, is how do we attract and how do we retain people in the community. It really is with quality of life. So I'm going to talk a little bit about parks, public gardens, trails, greenways, outdoor pools, and I'll explain why, but a little bit about recreation centers and community learning centers as well. What makes Lincoln special? What makes Lincoln have the good life? And so this is just kind of a quick list of this. I would tell you that I ran out of things that make Lincoln special before I got to, had more space on the page than I had less space on the page than I had things, but it really is quality of life and what makes Lincoln the good life that we all enjoy. One of the things that we talk about is neighborhood parks in this community. We have a lot of neighborhood-based services. A national best practice is that 10-minute walk standard, and Lincoln actually ranks very high comparatively for people that are within a 10-minute walk of a park. About 85% of our residents today are within an 85-minute walk of a park. Research indicates that proximity of outdoor recreation facilities has a very direct impact on residents' wellness, and that if trails, sidewalks, parks are close by, they tend to use them more. It helps people be fitter. One of the things that comes up is the cost of operating these facilities. We have changed our standard over time, and actually we have moved, I think, more and more to what has become a best practice standard, that we co-locate neighborhood parks with elementary schools typically. Almost in every case today, as we're developing new elementary school, we're identifying where the park will be very close to that. It's allowed us to change the number of acres that we acquire. When I first started in this position, the standard was a neighborhood park was going to be about 8 acres in size. We're now at the point that a neighborhood park is between 1 and 2 acres in size, and it's really because of that co-location opportunity, and it's really because of the play fields that are at elementary sites that we don't have to duplicate that with neighborhood park sites. Typical neighborhood park is going to serve about 2,000 residents. Typical operating cost for a neighborhood park is about someplace between $600 and $1,000 an acre, so the cost on an annual basis per household, it's less than $1 per year for maintenance. I know this is probably a topic that we'll want to continue to have discussion during the upcoming comprehensive plan, but I did want to bring this up. You see 3 dots on the map. Those are locations where we'll be opening up 3 new neighborhood parks during the upcoming biennium. One in Northwest Lincoln, one in Northeast Lincoln, one in Southeast Lincoln, and we're definitely not leaving Southwest out. We have locations there identified for new parks as well.
Lynn, were you looking at the gold dots or the?
Yeah, the kind of that gold colored kind of.
The yellow.
James, yep, there we go. Yep, exactly. And so that is the service area, the walking distance for those parks, and that is a 10-minute walk, and it's about a half-mile radius. But through GIS, we're actually able to determine, using the sidewalk routes, what the actual service area radius of each one of those parks is. Should explain this map a little bit more. The green area on the map is all areas that are within a 10-minute walk of park The blue areas are subdivisions or residential areas that are outside of that 10-minute walking distance. And some of those blue areas, we've identified neighborhood park sites. We have not yet developed those sites. There are a couple of those square miles, a couple of those areas that we don't yet have a strategy for getting a neighborhood park located. And I guess the dark color on there is some of the larger parks, so Pioneers Park, Wilderness Park, Holmes Park, Mahoney Park, are all identified in that darker color. Let me talk a little bit about the South Haymarket Park and Plaza project. This project really is about economic development. As you know, this park was identified in the Downtown Master Plan. It has been identified in the Downtown Master Plan for almost 2 decades. But the idea is to take the former Alter scrap site, and it's now been cleaned up and remediated, and it's ready for park development. And the City Council has seen this master plan that wraps a new park and plaza around a future redevelopment project. And really, this is intended to support a growing number of residents and residences living downtown. We anticipate that fundraising for this project will begin later this year, and we anticipate that the first phase of development of this project will open probably in 2023. There's really a significant interface between the timing of these projects and that Block 5 redevelopment project that's identified in the drawing. Public gardens, I think, are a significant attraction in Lincoln, both to residents and visitors. We operate 3 public gardens, Centennial Mall. We have 13 display fountains. Kind of what's next is we're about to initiate renovation of the Cascade Fountain at 27th and Capitol Parkway. We have a fundraising campaign in motion at this point, and we're hoping that by the summer of 2021 that we will actually have renovated that site and added some additional shaded outdoor seating there that's on the trail system that's in proximity to our other public gardens. Trails in this community, I think, are part of our DNA at this point. Certainly 25 years ago, we were just starting to build trails. When I first started with the Lincoln, we had some segments, and there was a lot of discussion about interconnecting the trail system. Today, it is an interconnected system. You can get on the system any place in Lincoln, and you can get to anywhere else in Lincoln. In fact, you can get to Kansas if you want to through the system. Our goal is to have all residents be within 1 mile of a trail, and we're very close to achieving that. The next trail that is very hard to see on that map is actually up in northeast Lincoln. It's north of I-80. On North 14th Street. We develop about a half-mile of trail a year on average. They don't really happen in half-mile increments, but on average, that's about what we're trying to accomplish. We talk a lot about what's the natural setting that Lincoln is identified in, and our former mayor used to say often that we don't have mountains and we don't have beaches, but we do have this. And this place is called McWay Falls at Big Sur, California. They refer to this place as being weepingly beautiful. And I would say that this is also weepingly beautiful. We've been identifying ourselves, I think, as increasingly becoming the Silicon Prairie. This is the Silicon Prairie in the Tallgrass Prairie, so we need to celebrate our native landscape here. These are the saline wetlands that are north of Lincoln.
Let's do this.
And obviously, this is Wilderness Park that was really developed for flood control, but it's now become a significant area for a variety of recreation activities. So this is really getting people out into the natural landscape. These natural landscapes are part of the identity and the character of Lincoln. This is a map from the Lincoln-Lancaster County Comprehensive Plan. This envisions an integrated green space loop that connects around Lincoln and then extends out into the county. And there is about a little over 1,200 acres of this that has been accomplished over time. And we continue to work to accomplish this through a variety of partnerships. And those partnerships include the Lower Platte South NRD, the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, Spring Creek Prairie Audubon, private organizations like Pheasants Forever. And a lot of this work is really done with grants, with private funding. And I often get the question about why should Lincoln be concerned about what's outside the city limits? And I think the answer is twofold. This is part of Lincoln's identity. This is who we are as a community. It's also, in a lot of places, these activities in preserving these areas would be accomplished by a county park system. We don't have a county park system in Lincoln. We have a city parks system that partners with an awful lot of local entities to make this happen. We operate 9 outdoor pools. This obviously is a significant opportunity. We have about 201,000 people who participate in outdoor water recreation activities each summer during the 79-day season. The kind of what's next with this, it amazes me to say this, but Star City Shores is going on its 25th season. When Star City Shores opened in 1996, it was state-of-the-art in the state. It is not state-of-the-art in the state anymore. There's a lot of smaller communities around that have nicer facilities, more amenities than Star City Shores does. Nebraska Game and Parks has developed facilities that have more amenities than Star City Shores. We have enough land area there that we'd like to add some additional amenities, and this will be a conversation, I think, during the upcoming budget process and the capital improvement process to identify potential sources where we can build some of these new outdoor recreation opportunities, that much of our resources are really directed to caring for what we've got. We've got to identify some new opportunities to fund some new facilities. Thought I would talk a little bit, as I said, about recreation centers and community learning centers. We just heard during the prior presentation that Lincoln has a very high percentage of families where both parents are working and children are looking for opportunities to be engaged in quality activities after school. We provide youth programming to about 420 children every day, before and after school programs, summer day camp programs, and these are 7 recreation centers are really places where we obviously do a lot of that, but they're also places where adults are connecting with both social activities and physical activities throughout the year. About half of the children who participate in our programming are receiving some sort of financial assistance. You probably know that the city recreation centers are located in the lower income areas of town, and so we're trying to make sure that we are providing services in those neighborhoods that are probably in the highest need. The Community Learning Center program is another best practice that is nationally recognized at this point. It's a unique model that essentially says that youth development is at the core, but if our kids are going to survive, our families need to survive, and our neighborhoods need to thrive as well. Today, there are community learning centers at 29 schools in Lincoln. There are 10 lead agencies. We are one of those lead agencies, and we provide community learning center services. We're the lead agency for 4 sites, and we also provide core services or before and after school and summer day camp services at a 5th site. The council knows that about 2 years ago, we came together with LPS and we established sustainable funding to continue this initiative and to continue to leverage that. A couple of things that I think are significant about this. Community learning centers are part of LPS's strategy to increase the graduation rate in Lincoln. So this is part of building Lincoln's workforce internally. We also know that students who participate in community learning centers, that they achieve at a higher rate on the standardized testing than their peers in the schools. So we know that it is having a direct impact on the students' learning as well. The wraparound services, the family support, there are parenting classes, there's English language learning classes, there are finance classes, there's nutrition classes, there are job training classes. So it's also a way for adults to get connected to the work that Brian is doing and that the chamber is doing. And so community learning centers really are a strategy, an economic development strategy. It's more than making sure that kids are safe after school. It's making sure that kids are safe and thriving after school, and that hopefully they then are growing up and they're taking jobs in this community, becoming contributing citizens. And that was a very quick run through, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have this afternoon. Oh, I've got one more, and I apologize. The Air Park Recreation Center, we've talked about this. This facility is in an old Air Force Recreation Center facility. That building is starting to fail at this point. The image that you see in the lower portion of the screen is a design for a replacement for that facility that would be co-located with the Arnold Elementary School site. And so we'll want to talk with the council about a funding strategy for that building. We think that there's a way to move forward and get that new building constructed and really continue to enhance the programming that happens in that part of the community. And certainly how we provide indoor and outdoor recreation services is going to be part of the upcoming comprehensive plan update process. And that's the end of the kind of formal presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I do, Madam
Okay.
Chair. Mr. Johnson, would you go back a bunch? Well, actually, let's start at the top of this slide. There's the words play, socialization, fitness, and wellness with color codes. And there was a slide early on that appeared to suggest that those are the types of parks we have in the city.
Those are the activities that we want to see happening. That's kind of the outcomes that we hope. Why do we develop parks? Because we want people to play there. We want them to socialize there, make connections to their neighborhoods. Increasingly, we're adding fitness equipment in all of our parks, outdoor adult fitness equipment, so that we want to see people's health outcomes improve by participating in outdoor recreation activities.
Thank you.
So Lynn, I thought at one point we were just talking about like a extensive rehab of Air Park Recreation Center. Are we now shifting gears and talking about a total replacement?
I think we are, and for a couple of reasons. Partly, that building really, I don't think it's structurally, it's starting to fail. And it's not in the right location. I think, as you all know, that it's on the east side of Northwest 48th Street, so it's isolated from the neighborhoods. It's difficult for children, particularly, to get to that site by themselves because they have to cross Northwest 48th Street, and then they've got to go a couple more blocks through really what is an undeveloped area. So we think co-locating it with the Arnold Elementary site really makes that become kind of a neighborhood center, reinforces that as a neighborhood center. We are reserving space there. There's the opportunity that the Williams Branch Library could potentially be co-located with this building. We're also reserving space on the site that someday when the Arnold Pool we need to consider replacing that facility, that we're reserving space on this same site. So the vision really is that this co-located neighborhood park, neighborhood recreation center, neighborhood pool co-located with an elementary school building, like I say, really becomes a neighborhood center in that part of town.
You know, we talked a lot about the senior demographics, that's really a reality of where we're going. So what type of programming is already in place or talked about to really enhance the senior experience?
Great question. And I would tell you that this building is designed with that in mind. Increasingly, we are partnering with aging partners to provide meal programs, to provide club and socialization programs, to provide fitness programs, particularly active recreation, active fitness programs. I think one of the things that we are seeing with older adults is that they want to continue to be physically active throughout their life. And one of the ways that they can do that, obviously, is at recreation centers, at parks, on trails.
So going back to pickleball.
Yeah.
Are you seeing more, I guess, courts being converted to pickleball courts, or how is the demand for pickleball?
Continues to grow. It's probably one of the fastest growing sports that we have in Lincoln. We're striping existing tennis courts so they can also be used for pickleball courts, and we're also going to be opening up 4 new pickleball courts in Peterson Park this spring. And the Lincoln Pickleball Group has a vision of a complex that might have as many as 12 outdoor courts altogether. And it's the demand for pickleball continues to increase significantly.
It's an important topic to be addressed.
Indoor,
Yeah, and we stripe the courts in stripe the courts in the gyms in our facilities where they can be used for indoor pickleball as well.
That's great. Are there any other questions for Lynn?
I think this is just great. Of course, my past is in recreation and parks, so
Yay.
anything that, people talk about Parks and Rec, I get very excited. And certainly there's room in the 2050 plan for one of my dreams to maybe gain a little bit of traction. I'd love to talk to you about it offline.
Absolutely. I look forward to that conversation.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, Lynn. Appreciate the updates.
You bet. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
And I have to tell you, when the weather's nice, our trails are really congested
That's,
with families, with seniors, with more and more cyclists. So, you have to kind of find the sweet spot in the day to avoid some of the crowds. So,
5:30 a.m.
we did a survey of residents, been almost 20 years ago at this point, but at that time, the projection was that trails got at least 1 million uses a year. I would guess that number is up today. That-
easily, yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that ends our budget topic, and I guess we are adjourned until 2 p.m. for the directors' meeting. Thank you.